Number 10. Since March 3, 1972, a gold anodized aluminum plaque has been moving away from Earth at approximately 12 kilometers per second. No engine is pushing it. No fuel remains. No correction system is active. Pioneer 10, the spacecraft it is attached to, lost contact with NASA transmitters in January 2003. Nobody has known its precise location since. The plaque is somewhere beyond the edge of the solar system, affixed to a dead machine, and it has been there for over 2 decades. The plaque was designed by Carl Sagan and Frank Drake. It depicts a nude man and woman, a schematic of our solar system with Pioneer's trajectory marked, a diagram of the hydrogen atom as a universal measurement unit, and a navigational map plotted against 14 known pulsars calibrated so that any civilization capable of detecting the spacecraft can triangulate Earth's position in the galaxy. The material is gold anodized aluminum, chosen because it corrodes at a rate approaching zero in the vacuum of interstellar space. Physicists estimate the plaque will survive structurally intact for at least 2 billion years. The Sun has approximately 5 billion years of fuel remaining before its terminal expansion begins. Every biological species alive on Earth today will almost certainly be extinct or unrecognizable within 10 million. The languages, borders, and institutions humanity currently maintains will not survive a fraction of that. The plaque will be intact through all of it. It will outlast the language encoded on it, the species depicted on it, and the solar system whose coordinates are etched into its face, all while moving silently at 12 kilometers per second through space that contains almost nothing, at a speed that will not meaningfully change on any human timescale. No one has tracked it since 2003. Pioneer 10's rough trajectory carries it toward Ross 248, a red dwarf 10.3 light-years from Earth. It will pass within 3.3 light-years of that star in approximately 32,000 years, not close enough to enter its solar system, not close enough to be captured by its gravity, not close enough to be detected. It will keep moving. There is no mechanism by which it stops. The plaque is the oldest permanent address humanity has ever attached to anything sent beyond the solar system. We have not known where it is for over 20 years. It will still be there in 2 billion years. And it is, of everything on this list, one of the least permanent objects we have ever launched, which says something about the list. Number 9. 24 billion kilometers from Earth, moving at 61,000 kilometers per hour through interstellar space, a gold-plated copper disc is carrying the sound of a human heartbeat into a dark that has no far side. Nothing is listening. Nothing is receiving it. The disc is not transmitting, it is simply there, bolted to the side of a dead spacecraft, waiting for a finder that the laws of probability do not support. The spacecraft is Voyager 1, launched in August 1977, the most distant human-made object ever confirmed. The disc is the golden record assembled by a committee led by Carl Sagan, who apparently understood exactly how absurd the project was and did it anyway. The record contains greetings in 55 human languages, music from 12 cultures, the sound of rain and surf and wind, a mother's first words to her newborn child, and the brain waves of a woman in love, encoded in the grooves alongside Beethoven and Chuck Berry. 115 images of Earth and its people are stored in analog form on the same disc. It is humanity's self-portrait pressed into gold. It was built to last. The gold-plated copper is effectively indestructible in the vacuum of space. Physicists estimate the record will survive intact for at least 1 billion years. Around 2025, Voyager 1's power source will be fully exhausted. After that, it continues dark, deaf, uncommunicative in the direction of a red dwarf in the constellation Camelopardalis, which it will pass within 1.7 light-years of in approximately 40,000 years. The nearest star to our own is 4.2 light-years away. After nearly 5 decades in space, Voyager 1 has barely cleared the neighborhood. Here is what the record does not account for. The civilization that made it was built to last considerably less than 1 billion years. In 1 billion years, every language on the disk will have gone extinct, not evolved, extinct. Every musician whose work was included will have been dead for so long that the concept of being dead will have lost all meaning. The nations that contributed will be archaeological categories, not countries. The disk will still be readable, the decoding instructions are etched directly into it. But there will be no one left who can explain what any of the sounds meant, or why a species once pressed its brain waves into gold and sent them through the universe. The golden record is the most expensive love letter ever written to a universe that will never write back. The next item on this list was never meant to survive. It was never designed for anything. It left by accident at a speed that should not have been achievable in 1957. Number 8. In the summer of 1957, a steel cap left Earth's atmosphere moving at 6 times the speed required to escape the planet entirely. It was not a spacecraft, not a probe, not a mission. It was a 4-inch thick steel plate bolted above a 150-meter test shaft in the Nevada desert, and it was launched by a nuclear device detonating beneath it on August 27, 1957, as part of a weapons test called Operation Plumbob Pascal B, a high-speed camera positioned above the shaft and set to record at 160 frames per second captured exactly 1 frame of the cap before losing it. 1 frame. To leave the frame in 1 frame meant the cap was moving at a minimum of 66 kilometers per second. Escape velocity from Earth is 11.2 kilometers per second, the minimum speed required to break free of the planet's gravity. The cap was traveling at nearly 6 times that. Dr. Robert Brownlee, the Los Alamos physicist who designed the test, ran the numbers afterward and reached a conclusion the U.S. government has never officially confirmed or denied. The cap almost certainly left Earth entirely. The official position is that it vaporized. At 66 kilometers per second, a steel plate driving upward through 60 kilometers of dense atmosphere would generate temperatures comparable to the surface of the sun. Vaporization is the far more probable outcome, but nobody confirmed it. No tracking system followed the cap out of frame. No search was conducted. The government's conclusion, as far as any public record shows, was that it had probably burned up, and that was considered sufficient. We simply do not know. If the cap survived, if the geometry, mass, and angle aligned, and the atmosphere did not consume it then since August 1957. A steel disk has been traveling through deep space faster than any object humanity has ever deliberately launched. It left the planet 4 years before Yuri Gagarin became the first human in orbit. It carries no plaque, no message, no intention. It carries nothing. It is a weapons test byproduct that may be the most permanent object we have ever produced, created by accident in a fraction of a second. The Voyager probes required years of planning, international scientific collaboration, and billions of dollars. The cap required 4 inches of steel and a sufficient nuclear device. We may have accidentally sent the first human-made object into interstellar space in 1957. We never confirmed it. We never searched for it. We did not notice it was gone. The next item on this list is not theoretical. It is confirmed, cataloged, and photographed. It is still on the surface of another world right now, and it has been accumulating there for over 50 years. Number 7. Right now on the surface of the moon, there are 96 bags of human biological waste left there by the 12 men who walked the lunar surface between 1969 and 1972, and then came home. They are still there. The moon has no atmosphere, no wind, no rain, no microbial activity, no geological mechanism capable of degrading them. In the absence of all of those things, the bags are approximately as they were on the day they were set down. This is the least unusual item in the inventory. Across all lunar missions, American and Soviet, crude and robotic humanity has deposited approximately 200,000 kilograms of material on the moon's surface. Descent stages, crashed orbiters, seismometers and soil samplers. A hammer and feather dropped simultaneously to demonstrate Galileo's equivalence principle, then abandoned where they fell. 2 golf balls struck by astronaut Alan Shepard in 1971. A photograph of Charles Duke's family placed face-up on the lunar surface during Apollo 16 in 1972. None of it is coming back. The flags planted during Apollo have almost certainly been bleached white by decades of unfiltered ultraviolet radiation. The fabric has likely degraded entirely, but the aluminum poles remain. The mounting hardware remains. The blueprint left by Neil Armstrong during the first moonwalk will persist, with no weather to disturb it, for an estimated 10 to 100 million years. In the time it takes that print to smooth over, mammals may have had sufficient time to evolve into something that would not recognize us as ancestors. There is one item in the inventory that belongs in a different category. In 1999, NASA Lunar Prospector spacecraft carried a small capsule containing a portion of the ashes of Eugene Shoemaker, planetary geologist, the scientist who more than anyone established the discipline of planetary impact science. He had wanted to go to the moon his entire career and was never selected as an astronaut. The capsule impacted near the lunar South Pole. Shoemaker's remains are now part of the lunar surface. He is the only human being buried on another world. We came in peace for all mankind. Then we left the waste bags, the golf balls, the flags, the hardware, the photograph, and the man who had always wanted to be there, and we went home. The moon will remember this visit for longer than our civilization has existed, and unlike the steel cap that may or may not be somewhere in deep space, Everything deposited on the moon is confirmed, documented, and permanent. The wreckage arrived in silence. What came next we announced we aimed it deliberately, and we have since lost the ability to retract it. Number 6. In 1974, humanity broadcast its precise location to the galaxy. No one asked whether that was safe to do. The transmission was called the Arecibo message. It was sent on November 16, 1974, from the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, then the largest radio telescope on Earth. The message was 1,679 binary digits, a string of zeros and ones that, arranged in the correct grid, forms a picture. The picture contains a map of our solar system with the third planet identified as the origin. It contains a diagram of the DNA double helix. It contains a silhouette of a human figure with height encoded in the signal. It contains a representation of the Arecibo telescope itself, in case whoever receives the message wants to know what was used to send it. In 3 minutes of transmission, we identified our address, our biology, our appearance, and the approximate level of our technology. The target was Messier 13, a globular cluster of approximately 300,000 stars, 25,000 light-years from Earth. The message travels at the speed of light. It will arrive in approximately 25,000 years. Here is what no one discussed publicly before sending it. We had no means of knowing what was listening. Stephen Hawking addressed this directly. He argued that broadcasting our location and existence to the broader galaxy could be the most dangerous act humanity had ever committed. The reasoning: any civilization capable of receiving and decoding our signal would be technologically superior to us by a margin we cannot estimate. The historical record of what occurs when a technologically advanced civilization contacts a less advanced one is not encouraging for the latter. We broadcast our position before establishing any protocol for what to do if a response came. The Arecibo Observatory collapsed on December 1, 2020. A cable supporting the receiver platform failed. The platform fell. The structure that generated the transmission no longer exists. We cannot send a follow-up. We cannot transmit a retraction. We told the galaxy where to find us. Then we destroyed the only instrument we had to elaborate on that. The message is now approximately 50 light-years from Earth, moving outward at the speed of light, and it will travel for roughly 25,000 more years before reaching its target, assuming anything at Messier 13 is present to receive it. Whether anything is listening along the way is a question we did not ask before we sent it. It is still the only deliberate aimed signal on this list. What comes next is not aimed at anything. It moves in every direction, at every frequency, and it has been expanding continuously for over a century. Number 5. Right now, at the speed of light, every radio transmission humanity has ever made is expanding into the galaxy. This is not a metaphor. Since the early 1920s, Earth has been emitting electromagnetic radiation radio waves, television signals, radar pulses, military communications moving outward in all directions simultaneously at 300,000 kilometers per second. This signal has been traveling for over a century. The sphere it has created, with Earth at the center, now extends approximately 100 light-years in radius. Every star system within that sphere has already been passed by a wave of human signal. They have already received us. We did not ask whether that was acceptable, and we cannot reverse it. The 1936 Berlin Olympics were among the first major events broadcast in high-definition television. Those signals are now approximately 88 light-years from Earth. The first radar pulses from World War II have been in motion since the early 1940s. The earliest commercial radio transmissions are now at the outermost edge of the bubble, more than 100 light-years out and still moving. At interstellar distances, these signals attenuate. They weaken with the square of the distance traveled. By the time they reach any nearby star, they are extraordinarily faint. Faint is not zero. A civilization with sufficiently sensitive receiving equipment could detect them. We cannot calculate what counts as sufficiently sensitive for a civilization we have never encountered. Here is the part that cannot be addressed by switching anything off. We cannot stop adding to it. Every signal emitted by any device on Earth today, every television broadcast, every radar ping, every satellite communication is expanding the bubble in real time. The bubble grows by 1 light-year per year permanently with no mechanism for retraction. No political decision can recall what has already left. The physical objects on this list will eventually encounter something that degrades them: gravity. Stellar events. The slow processes of a universe that does not remain static. The electromagnetic bubble has no such vulnerability. It travels at the speed of causality. Nothing moves faster. In 4.5 billion years, when the sun has consumed the Earth, This bubble will still be moving outward into a universe it has already been filling for the entire length of human civilization. The most permanent mark humanity will ever leave on the universe is not a spacecraft, a plaque, or a deliberate message to a particular star. It is the noise we made while we were here. What comes next is not noise. It is physical. It is in orbit above this planet right now, and some of it is radioactive. Number 4. Approximately 32 nuclear reactors are currently in orbit around Earth. Most are Soviet-era. The agencies with nominal responsibility for the majority of them have lost contact with those spacecraft. They are circling the planet on roughly 90-minute intervals, and they are slowly descending. They were components of a program called Rorschach Radar Ocean Reconnaissance Satellites, operated by the Soviet Union between 1967 and 1988. The mission was tracking Western naval vessels from space, which required powerful onboard radar systems. Powerful radar requires substantial power. The solution was nuclear fission reactors fueled by enriched uranium-235, built into each satellite as the primary power source. When a satellite's operational life ended, engineers would execute a disposal maneuver. The reactor core would be separated from the main spacecraft body and boosted into a higher orbit, typically between 900 and 1,000 kilometers altitude, intended to isolate the radioactive material long enough for the hazard to diminish. The assumption was that at those altitudes, the cores would hold stable orbit for centuries, sufficient time for the fission products to decay. There are two problems with this plan. The first, atmospheric drag at 900 kilometers is not zero. ESA and NASA orbital modeling estimates these disposal orbits will decay in 300 to 900 years, not the 1,000 or more the design assumed. Several reactor cores are already measurably descending. The second problem requires no modeling. The radioactive material inside these cores needs approximately 30,000 years to decay to levels safe for biological exposure. The orbits will fail 30 times before the material becomes harmless. In 1978, one of them did not make it to the disposal orbit at all. Cosmos 954, a Rorschach satellite that suffered a reactor failure, re-entered the atmosphere uncontrolled and dispersed radioactive debris across 600 kilometers of northern Canada. The recovery operation, Operation Morning Light, involved Canadian and American teams for months, cost tens of millions of dollars, and recovered less than 1% of the satellite's mass. The rest burned up on re-entry, or landed somewhere the teams did not search. The official record does not distinguish between these outcomes with confidence. We placed nuclear reactor cores in orbit, declared the orbit stable enough for the purpose, and were wrong about the timescale by a factor of 30. Within the next few centuries, these cores will begin returning to Earth, carrying material that will remain hazardous for 30,000 years, and we will have no reliable means of predicting where they land. This is the only item on this list that is coming back. What comes next will not. What comes next is already past the orbit of Neptune, dark, silent, carrying the names of 400,000 people who are currently alive. Number 3. On a CDROM sealed inside a spacecraft drifting 57 astronomical units from Earth are the names of 434,000 people. Many of those people are still alive. None of them will outlast the disk. The spacecraft is New Horizons, launched in January 2006, which completed its Pluto flyby in July 2015, and has been moving outward ever since. Its power source is projected to exhaust itself around 2035 to 2038. After that, it goes silent, no telemetry, no signal, no way to confirm its location or verify the condition of its cargo. It will simply be somewhere in the outer solar system, moving, dark, and carrying everything still attached to its frame. Here is the cargo. The CDROM with 434,000 names, men, women, and children, who submitted them to NASA before launch, understanding on some level that this was the most permanent thing they would ever do with their names. A 1991 United States postage stamp reading, Pluto, not yet explored. Included after the flyby rendered that legend permanent, a small joke sealed into a spacecraft frame for whatever finds it. A piece of Spaceship One, the first commercial crewed spacecraft, a Florida state quarter, and a capsule containing the ashes of Clyde Tombaugh. Tombaugh was the American astronomer who discovered Pluto on February 18, 1930. He died in 1997, 9 years before New Horizons launched. A portion of his cremated remains was attached to the spacecraft's frame. In July 2015, New Horizons flew past the world Tombaugh had spent his life's defining moment discovering. It then kept moving. Clyde Tombaugh has now traveled farther from Earth than any human being in history, and he will continue traveling past the edge of the solar system into interstellar space, carrying the names of the living alongside him. In approximately 10,000 years, New Horizons will reach the Oort cloud, the outermost boundary of the solar system. In approximately 700 million years, it will drift clear of the solar system entirely. After that, it passes through the galaxy for billions of years with Tombaugh's ashes and 434,000 names sealed inside, no signal, no monitoring, no means of following it. It vanishes from human awareness not through destruction but through distance, which is its own form of permanence. 700 million years from now, when mammals as a class may no longer exist on Earth in any recognizable form, New Horizons will still be carrying the names of people who are alive today. Those people will have been dead for 700 million years. Their names will still be moving. What comes next is not about individual names. It is about whether sending any of this names, records, messages, signals, steel caps, nuclear cores, footprints was ever going to mean anything at all. Number 2. Every object on this list carries one implicit assumption: that something, somewhere, will eventually encounter it. The plaque on Pioneer 10 was designed to be decoded. The golden record includes playback instructions. The Arecibo message was aimed at a specific target. The names on New Horizons were submitted by people who believed on some level that those names would one day be seen by something capable of understanding what a name is. The mathematics does not support this. Voyager 1, the most distant object we have ever confirmed launching, is traveling in the approximate direction of a red dwarf roughly 17 light-years from Earth. At its current velocity, it will make its closest approach in approximately 40,000 years, passing within 1.7 light-years of that star. That is not within any plausible detection range. Astronomers estimate Voyager 1's probability of passing within even 1 light-year of any star system over the next billion years at roughly 1 in 10,000. The galaxy is that empty. If something found Voyager 1 in 1 billion years, humanity would have been extinct for approximately 995 million of those years. Life on Earth is expected to remain viable for at most 1 to 1.5 billion more years before the sun's increasing output makes the surface uninhabitable. A civilization that recovers the golden record will find a species that no longer exists, encoded on a disk from a world that may no longer support life. The decoding instructions will be intact. The record is not a greeting. It is a fossil. This is true of everything on this list. The electromagnetic bubble degrades to noise well below detectable thresholds at meaningful interstellar range. The footprints on the moon will persist for 100 million years with no observer. The reactor cores will return to Earth in a form their originators could not have intended. New Horizons will carry 434,000 names through the galaxy for billions of years, names that no intelligence will ever be able to connect to living people, because none will have any record that those people existed. And yet every one of these things was sent. We did not send them because we believed they would be received. We sent them because something had to persist, some proof, some receipt beyond the duration of our own attention. The plaque, the record, the names, not communications. Receipts, evidence that something was here, filed with no specific recipient in a medium that will outlast us by a factor we cannot calculate. These are not messages. They are prayers to a universe that does not answer. The universe that does not answer is the one we live in. We will keep sending things into it. The silence will continue. This is not a failure condition. This is the situation. There is one more object on this list. Unlike the rest, it carries no plaque, no cargo of names. What it carries is more comprehensive, and you are already inside it. Number 1. The final object on this list is the one you are currently watching. Right now, this video exists on servers distributed across multiple countries. It exists in backup systems, in cached versions, and automated archives operated by organizations with no relationship to whoever produced it. The moment it was uploaded to a distribution network, it became effectively impossible for any single entity to fully delete. That is not a policy. It is an architecture. The internet was designed for redundancy. Data that enters global distribution networks does not depart easily. There are YouTube channels operated by people who died years ago. The channels are still live. The videos still play. The subscriber counts still increment. These videos will outlast everyone who remembers uploading them, not because anyone chose to preserve them, but because deletion requires active effort across every system holding a copy, and those copies replicate faster than they can be withdrawn. You will die before this video is deleted. Here is what makes this different from every other item on this list. The Pioneer plaque will travel for millions of years and in all probability be encountered by nothing. The golden record has an interstellar encounter probability that approaches 0. The footprints on the moon will persist for 100 million years with no observer. This video is being observed right now. By you. Whatever you do after this, the fact that you watched it has already occurred. That event cannot be removed from the causal history of the universe. It has already happened. The servers will eventually fail. The formats will become unreadable. Some point exists centuries or millennia from now when the last copy of this video degrades into noise on whatever storage medium still functions. But that point is after your death. It is after the deaths of everyone you have ever known personally. It is in all probability after the death of the civilization that currently maintains the infrastructure on which this runs. This is what all 10 objects on this list share. They were made by people who understood, on some level, that they were not going to last. The plaque was made by people who knew. The record was curated by Carl Sagan, who died in 1996 and will never know whether it reaches anything. The astronaut who left his family photograph on the lunar surface knew he was never going back for it. The names submitted to New Horizons were entered by people doing the most permanent thing they would ever do with their names. In every case, the people who sent these things are dead, or will be dead, long before those things finish any journey. They did it anyway. Not because they expected to be remembered. Not because the mathematics supported the effort. Not because the universe was listening. They sent these things because they were here and they required that fact to persist for one moment longer than they could personally sustain it. The paradox is not that we sent objects into space that will outlast us. The paradox is that we did it while knowing it could never matter and we were right to do it anyway. You were here. You watched this. That already happened. And no force in the observable universe can take it back. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. And subscribe for more.